Anybody else?
Hamlin gets hit from behind by Ross Chastain.
3, 2, 1. Plates are all rolling here. We're all good.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to episode 24 of the 4 Wide Podcast. Super excited to be here tonight. We're going to recap Atlanta and dive into COTA and a lot other topics to run through. Cody, what's going on, man? How you doing? Why are you looking at me like that, man?
Hey, bro. I mean, it looked like you were about to sneeze or something. I don't know, but I'm good, bro.
I was going to say something and then decided not to, man.
Okay.
Hey,
okay.
Did you pick me up a Dale Earnhardt vintage tee, by the way? I've been meaning to ask you.
Yeah, no, I got this off eBay.
Did you order
I've had it for
too?
like a year. No. So, it's just eBay has all the vintage stuff. And I mean, this is vintage, right? Like this isn't, somebody got a Hanes t-shirt and put a picture of the driver on there. Like, no, this is made by, what was it, Chase Authentics or whatever back in the day that used to make all that stuff. Right, Chase exactly. So yeah, no, I absolutely love this shirt. And that's why you see me wear it like every third episode. And I'm going to continue to do that.
Yeah. I had a birthday in February. You didn't think to give me one?
No, I had one too. Anyway, so what'd you think about the race, bro? Hey, but for real though, can I have one thing to say.
Okay.
And I'm sorry to say this.
Okay.
Eric Almirola, I need you to retire, bro.
Were you like apologizing to me or just apologizing to him and his fans?
Yeah, I'm apologizing to him and his fans because look, there's been 3 races this year. 3 races at least.
All right, bro, but
that he has messed up.
I'm sorry.
A Kyle Larson finish, okay?
True, but I can't blame that on him. I got to blame that on the crew, man, because what? Last week, what? He like he blew a tire or something like that, and then this
tire collected. All right, hold on. All right, so these are the 3 races that this happened. Daytona, he ran into the back of, I think it was like Travis Pastrana, that moved Pastrana into Kyle Larson on the final lap. Kyle Larson wrecks. What was it? Was it Las Vegas? Kyle Larson basically has the win, and 4 laps left into the wall. Goes Eric Almirola, caution comes out. Kyle Larson loses, and then bam. This weekend at Atlanta, leading the race. Eric Almirola leading the race. Tire just bursts, collects Kyle Larson and a few other cars. That's all she wrote. I'm just saying, man. Like
I can't blame that on Almirola, man. I
mean,
mean,
that's what I'm doing it.
I got to blame that on his crew. I believe that they said that when he blew his tire this week at Atlanta, he was like 70 plus laps on those tires. 70 plus laps on those tires. I think it was like 73 or 74. Bro, come on. You got to get better crew help than that. I mean, you can put some of that on the driver as well, but like at a point, your crew chief got to step in and be like, bro, we've been on these tires for a while. You need to go on and bring it home. How do you think I feel, man?
I get it. Yeah. You're better off going after Corey LaJoie.
Well, let me
Michael McDowell.
Well, let me tell you this. I get hyped because Eric Almirola like spends half of the race in the back, and then towards the end he makes like top 13, top 14. I'm like, I'm not bad for my third car, and then just spins out. Does not do good for me. Speaking of while we're on the topic of Atlanta, we can go ahead and kind of jump into the review and jump into. I want to start off right here, and I want to start off with our fantasy league with Sean. Listen, man, I'm pissed. I had a good weekend overall, but I had a great weekend going. I had Chris Buescher running up in the top 10. Eric Jones got a top 10 finish. Denny Hamlin got a top 10 finish. I was going 3 for 3. And then a guy named Ross Chastain that didn't hit him, didn't get into him.
He didn't.
But still, I mean, had to take out my boy Chris Buescher, man. I had 3 cars in the top 10, and it just, man, just give me one race with 3 cars in the top 10. Like, I had it going, man. I had it going.
Yeah, no, I didn't have it going whatsoever. Nothing new. It's just, I can't wait for next season for us to do this because I had the whole auction process wrong, and I'm gonna 100% do a lot better because my team outside of Tyler Reddick, who I didn't start this weekend, who got I believe a top 5. Yeah, nobody else on my team did. I think Cindric was my highest finisher at like whatever it was, 14th. It's just been a bad year in that fantasy GM league that we're doing. But guess what? I'm still having fun doing it. It's fun.
No,
But it just sucks.
it's
You're
definitely
going to be
fun.
better though. Once Chase comes back, like you'll be able to drop Almirola and you're going to be back onto it. So
Yeah, I mean, no, I get that, man. But right now it's tough. Obviously, my strong card is Denny Hamlin, and I've run him into the books, man. I ran him 5 straight races, so I'm going to have to sit him out here at COTA. So, which I think Chris Buescher will do okay here this weekend. I think Eric Jones would do okay here this weekend. That's about it. I'm not giving any credence to Eric Almirola, man. Can't do it. Like, I just have no faith. But listen, speaking of Atlanta, speaking of Eric Jones, I kind of want to start there, man. For me personally, that was just kind of a highlight for me because I've started him multiple times this year, and what a finish that 43 had in Atlanta. It was a kind of a quiet finish. He kind of snuck into the top 10, I believe.
Yep, he did.
Snuck into the top 10, man, and he was kind of running towards the back for most of the race and until we got to that third stage and he started creeping into that 13th mark and then kind of crept his way into a top 10, man. But a lot of expectations on that 43 team with Jimmy Johnson being part owner over there as well now. And I don't know, man. I think that we have a lot of I think that 43 team has a lot of growing to do. But we're starting to see small progress in that sense. But anyways, that's kind of what stuck out to me for my drivers. I know it wasn't a topic, but did anything stick out for you for your drivers? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't even know how your drivers did. Completely honest, I do not know.
Well, I mean, my drivers were, at least one of them, they were looking good for the majority of the race. Austin Cindric, I mean, he was in the top 10 for the majority of the race. And then I guess it was just that final run. It wasn't in the cards for him. I know that I had Cindric and Briscoe. They both qualified in the top 10. So I was thinking, all right, cool. I might at least get 2 drivers in the top 10. I had Austin Dillon, Austin Cindric, and Chase Briscoe as my drivers this week. And we know Austin Dillon is a very good plate driver, as we call him. But nope, he didn't do well this weekend for me. So I had Austin Cindric was my highest finisher at 11th. And then it goes to Austin Dillon at 20th and Chase Briscoe at 24th. Look, I know that we talked about Chase Briscoe and like in the beginning of the season, and we both believed that he was going to be a driver who we didn't see him having the success that he was going to have or that he had in 2022. And he's absolutely proven us right now. He, outside of last week when he finished in the top, I think 10 at Phoenix.
Very quiet top 10. It was an anomaly for sure.
He has not done well at the other 4 racetracks. And look, man,
I think most of those tracks he's finished in the 20s.
It has been. It's some in the 30s. And to kind of not to pile on Chase Briscoe, but to really look at it, Briscoe won Phoenix last year in the spring, right? So you're saying he already had his win by this point in the season. A lot of pressure is off of him, right? Like he knows he's going to make it into the playoffs. Now, with how this season has started for him, I believe just 5 races in, he has a lot of pressure on him because he knows he's going to have to go out and win a race, maybe 2, to make it to the playoffs this year. And the way he's been racing, it doesn't look pretty.
Well, listen, man, I agree with that. And if he thinks the pressure is on him now, the pressure's going to be on him when that number 4 car retires next year, when the guy behind the wheel driving in, Kevin Harvick, retires. Because let's be honest, Kevin Harvick has had a hell of a season this year. Obviously, he didn't get the finish that he wanted here at Atlanta, but that's kind of what you kind of got to have that luck here at quote-unquote plate races or close to super speedways, whatever you want to call Atlanta. You got to have that luck, and luck was just kind of on the bad side for him. But I think one thing that Kevin Harvick has done consistently this year is run very, very well, which we didn't see last year. We saw him struggle a lot last year, except for a couple races, and even when he got in the playoffs, he struggled. So this 4 car seems to be on a mission. It's obviously his last and his final and his last season, and I'm not going to be shocked if they walk away with a couple of wins because he's on a mission and hell of a way to go out. And then also, man, again, it just makes me wonder what this Stewart Haas team is going to do next year.
I heard Door Bumper Clear talk about it. Again, one of the best NASCAR podcasts out besides us. And I heard them talk about it the other week, though. I think it was when Jordan Bianchi was on there. And they kind of talked about that. They were talking about Stewart Haas racing, and they were wondering, like, well, look, Kevin Harvick is like, well, he's retiring after this year. Eric Almirola, who brings in sponsorship with Smithfield, he's likely gone. So all you're going to have is Ryan Preece and Chase Briscoe. They said that in order to keep sponsorship or get sponsorship to keep Ford around, they think that the Stewart Haas's best move would be to go to Ford, have Ford tell them which drivers they want in the number 4 car. And basically saying like, hey, here's a blank check. You go make it happen. I'd be very interested to see what happens, man. We bring up Christopher Bell's name a lot because we don't really know what his contract is. We think he might be a free agent after this year. And I mean, who knows? We saw something happen last year when, Tyler Reddick really only had one more year with RCR, and then RCR just went ahead and moved on from him. So maybe there's an option for Stewart Haas to buy out somebody.
I mean, but my question is going to be, though, with Stewart Haas Racing, man, like outside of Kevin Harvick, that entire organization is struggling this year. Almirola seems to be running decent, but just does not get the finishes. But so I guess my question would be, what driver would want to come over there? I mean, I don't know who that would be. Maybe, we know Eric Jones is with the 43 for a couple years, so that's probably not an option. And if it is, do you even want to go to Stewart Haas? I just don't know what the sell would be for a really good driver to go over in that. It just doesn't make sense to me, though, man, because the equipment seems to be there. It seems to be really, really good, at least for the 4 team. So unless they're like that 4 team is getting way better equipment, which I doubt it's getting that much better equipment, maybe those other 3 drivers just aren't what is expected to be.
I mean, that very well could be, because I guess when you look at the rookie drivers, or not rookie drivers, but I mean, I guess sort of like the drivers who have come in over the past 3 or 4 years, I mean, did Chase Briscoe really have that much hype on him? I mean, maybe I'm wrong. All right, because I will be the first to admit I don't watch the Xfinity series as religiously as I do the Cup series. So maybe I didn't realize maybe Chase Briscoe did have a lot of hype surrounding him when he came over to Stewart Haas. But, I feel like Christopher Bell had a lot more hype going to Joe Gibbs. Obviously, Ty Gibbs has a lot of hype, him going to Gibbs as well. William Byron had a whole bunch of hype going into Hendrick. So I don't know, man. It does kind of feel like Stewart Haas is going to have to go back to the drawing board and kind of figure out what's going on, because, from their inception, when you had Tony Stewart and Ryan Newman racing, to 2 or 3 years ago when you still had Clint Boyer and Kevin Harvick. I mean, Stewart Haas was a team to be feared, and now it's just like the past 2 or 3 years they've just completely fallen off the map, man. So they're gonna have to figure out something.
I know I heard Tony talk about this multiple times about how close he was to signing Kyle Larson when he came back to racing, but obviously Hendrick's probably going to win that battle every time. So, but man, can you imagine what that would be and how big that would have been for that team?
I mean, that would have just been changed the landscape of NASCAR in general, right? Because you're trying to think, well, then who would Hendrick have had come over? It's just, I don't know. It would have been a domino effect for sure, but dang, what could have been?
Yeah, man. A lot to look forward to as far as Stewart Haas, who's going to fill that 4 car running down the line. I know that wasn't a topic, but it was definitely something I wanted to touch on. But Joey Logano, man, he gets the dub here at Atlanta. We kind of talked about last week, one of the topics being who are we concerned about coming out of the West Coast swing. And I did pick Joey Logano for one of mine, and I know you said you easily could have picked Joey Logano for yours, but went a different direction. And I think we both had faith in him that he would get multiple wins throughout the year, and he didn't wait long at all. Coming out of that West Coast swing, he gets that number 22 car in victory lane, which was very good to see because, man, it was just weird seeing that 22 car just struggle the past few weeks and like just running in the back of the pack, something we're just really not used to seeing from that 22 team. But really, Penske was strong this week here at Atlanta. Ryan Blaney kind of, put himself in a hole, but was able to come back and get a top 10 finish, which just goes to show you how strong those Penske cars were here at Atlanta. For a long time, for a little bit, we thought Brad Keselowski may get his first win here with RFK. That would have been super nice to see, man, but that 22 car was just too strong, man. So I thought it was okay race. I would say I didn't get this race was not as exciting as the past two races for me. And it's funny to say that because obviously every week you see or every day you see your Facebook memories pop up, and I had one pop up a day or two ago talking about how exciting that Atlanta race was last year. And we just didn't get that this year. A lot of clean racing, which is fine. Like I don't mind that, but really, I just thought it was an okay race. I don't want to sit here and say like boring, but I do want to ask you a question after I get your opinion or your overall review of Atlanta.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought Atlanta was, it had its moments. I think a lot of people, including myself, thought that what we saw Friday and Saturday night with the truck race and the Xfinity race, seemed like it was a lot of cautions. So it was going to be a caution fest in the Cup race, and it wasn't that. And that's the thing about plate racing. You get those runs where they're just single file the whole way through, right? And I mean that can very well be boring because it's not just one car that's going to be out there dominating. Every car is basically set up the same. But again, these races give you great finishes, and like you said, it looked like Brad K was going to get that win, his first win for RFK, and it just didn't happen. I mean, that last 40 to 50 laps. I mean, it looked like he dominated that. And you know what? Here's the thing. That looks to be a trend this year, right? Like you can go back to Las Vegas. Kyle Larson dominated like the last 50 or 60 laps of that race, didn't win. Kevin Harvick dominated like the last 50 or 60 laps of Phoenix, didn't win. You go to Atlanta, Brad K, third week in a row, Brad K dominated those last 50, 60 laps, didn't win. So it's crazy to see, but at the same time, it goes to show anything can happen, man. And that's exactly what we've seen this NASCAR season. But I'm like I said, I agree with you. It had its moments, but some of it was somewhat of a snooze fest. That's just, it is what it is, man. I kind of feel like we've kind of seen that through the majority of this year so far. And I truly don't know what can be done. I guess we're just gonna have to let the chips fall where they may. But what was your question?
We kind of talked about this in the group, man, and I've heard Door Bumper Clear kind of talk about it the past couple of weeks, man. Just how hard it is to pass on a lot of these racetracks. I heard Denny Hamlin kind of talk about it too, and we're gonna kind of talk about Denny Hamlin's penalty and everything that was assessed to him. But I was listening to a lot of drivers had a lot to say about the racing. I know Kyle Busch was quoted as far as drivers not having the respect that they used to in the sport. And Denny Hamlin commented on that, but he did say a lot of that is like back in the day when it came to racing, if you had a very strong car early on in a run, you would just, if somebody was wanting to go up front, you would just wave them past and let them go, because you know that they would burn their tires out and be able to save your tires and go back up and catch them, because you knew your car was just a little bit better and you're saving your tires. And Denny Hamlin was talking about just how hard that is to do in this new car. So there is not a lot of give and take compared to what it was back in the day. And that there's just passing is so hard in this car. And I was just wondering your opinion on, do you think that that is affecting how exciting these races are without that passing?
I agree. I think that is what it is. And I think that what NASCAR has done is somewhat boxed themselves in. They've made these cars so identical to one another that, like, I hear Door Bumper Clear talk about it all the time. They talk about how these Xfinity cars, the cars are so hard to drive. That's why the racing looks so much better. I'm not saying that these cars that they're driving in Cup aren't hard to drive, but the way that some of these drivers talk about it, some of the guys who are around these cars on a daily basis, how they talk about it, it just makes it seem that they've taken away something. They've taken away an art on how to drive these cars. You want a level of difficulty that only the 1% of the 1% can drive. And I kind of feel like NASCAR has somewhat taken that away. So in return, you kind of taking that away means you're going to take away some of the competitive nature, which means it's going to be hard to pass. Now, don't get me wrong, right? Not all of that is on the car. There are some tracks out here that you just cannot pass on. So I don't know what NASCAR can do to make that better. I don't know. Everybody says, well, why don't they repave these tracks? Then you hear drivers say, well, when you repave the tracks, it takes, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 races for it to get worn in for you to actually start getting a competitive race. There has to be some kind of simulation, or not simulation, but some kind of work that can be done to a track that after you repave it, you can go back over it and give it a worn feel so that we can get a competitive passing type nature race immediately.
I think that would be a great idea, man. If there was something out there that can do that. It's just, so far, I got to be honest with you, man. These races have been kind of boring. Like, outside of really Daytona was exciting, but Daytona is exciting every year. It's just the way that is. And I think we talked about it last week, man. Going into Atlanta, we thought it would be a lot more exciting than what it actually was. And I don't know, man. It's just something I wanted to pose, because again, I hear Door Bumper Clear talking about it all the time. And to your point, that as far as you're not saying that these new cars are hard to drive, but they, on Sunday, they actually showed a picture of inside the car and how smooth that car was driving for a lot of drivers. And if you go back and watch the Xfinity race, which was a shit show in itself, but you see how the hands were kind of all over the place. You know what I mean? It added a lot more difficulty than what those Cup cars were going with.
Do you think that some of this has to do with the aero package that they have? Because
it has to be.
There's been, like, think about
that's new this year, right? Is that new this year?
No, I think that they try different packages at different tracks every now and then, but I feel that over the past few years, we've seen, like, they have the 750 package, the 550 package, depending on the track that you're going to. I almost feel like when you look maybe 5 to 10 years ago, when we would go to a track like Michigan, right? Like, you're coming out of turn 2, going down the backstretch, about to hit turn 3. And these cars are there's like a board up somewhere in Michigan. These cars were hitting almost 210 miles an hour. You don't see that in Michigan anymore. So, I understand they're trying to make it more safe. Obviously, the faster you go, the more hurt you could possibly get. But it just seems like NASCAR's taken, and it's not given a good product on the track.
I agree, man. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, man. And like, I want to know what the difference is from last year to this year, because I felt like the racing last year was very exciting. Was even the early Atlanta race was very exciting. I don't know. I'm just nervous, man. I don't want this to be a all season thing, and I feel like we're going to a track coming up at COTA that's kind of going to give us the same thing. And the reason for that, in my opinion, and we'll jump into it when we go more into the preview. No more stages at these.
Well, hold on. Aren't they doing? They're doing stages, but it won't be a caution.
Okay. Is that
If
what
I'm
it
not,
is?
if I'm not mistaken, I think basically what they're doing is you're still going to have the stage racing.
Oh yeah. That's what. Okay, you're right. But again, what scares me about that when it comes to road course races is
The lack of cautions in general.
even with the stage cautions, like unless it's like for the most part, unless it's the restart towards the end of the race, like a green, white, checkered, you're not gonna get those cautions, man, and it just kind of scares me. And I listened to Door Bumper Clear and Dale Jr.'s podcast, and a bunch of people say, what is the difference going to be, or how is COTA going to be like this upcoming race? I think I saw Denny Hamlin answer a question about it, and he just said you're going to have drivers that are going to pull away. And the thing with the road courses is if you don't get stuck somewhere, NASCAR's not going to throw that flag. Now, if it gets super, super boring, NASCAR might go out there and plant something to throw a flag, like debris was. But make sure
there's a piece of a napkin on the track. We got to throw the flag.
Got to, bro. But all right, man. Let's jump into the top 10 from Atlanta.
Yes, sir.
As you see, go ahead.
No, you got it.
No, you're better at that. Way better at that than me.
All right. Joey Logano, as we talked about, kind of struggled past couple weeks. He gets his first win of the season. My championship pick looking good. Let's go, baby. Brad K, who we said dominated the last 50 or 60 laps of that race, finishes second, still looking to get that first career win with RFK. Christopher Bell, who has been hot this year, man, he gets another top 5, finishes third. How about this? We talked about him last week. Corey LaJoie, he loves this new Atlanta style racing. He gets a top 5 this year at Atlanta, finishing 4th. And then Tyler Reddick with another top 5, finishes 5th. Jumping in 6th through 10th, Denny Hamlin 6th. Ryan Blaney, as you noted, I believe he was 2 laps down at one point, was able to get those laps back, finish in the top 10. He finishes 7th. Eric Jones 8th. Ty Gibbs gets his first top 10 of the year and finishing 9th. And then Kyle Busch being as consistent as ever, man, showing you that the last 2 years have just been a fluke. He just needed a new team to believe in him. He gets another top 10, finishes 10th at Atlanta. So that's the top 10 right there. And I know that you talked about it a little bit. We talked about Eric Jones earlier in the show. He gets a top 10. But I just want to talk about Corey LaJoie real quick, man, because that's not a name we talk about often. I know we talked about him last week, and that was because we went back and talked about the 2 races last year at Atlanta. But just seeing him get this top 10, man, this top 5 at that, look, he's been racing really well this year. What was it? Was it Auto Club? He finished 13th, I believe, and he was like in that top 10 to 15 range all day. It's just really good to see Corey LaJoie really get his footing on this new car, and he's outperforming the equipment that he's given.
I agree, man. And look, maybe this is a guy who could maybe creep over to Stewart-Haas Racing.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's a good choice right there. Honestly, I mean, that would be an upgrade in equipment. And I think a lot of people have a lot of confidence in Corey LaJoie, man, especially if he's able to be put in that right equipment. So yeah, man, I think it was good to see him get this 4th place finish. I think it was good to see Tyler Reddick to, kind of a slow start to the season, start to put together 2 back-to-back really, really good finishes. And then when you dive into the latter part of the top 10, obviously we talked about Eric Jones. But look at that, man. Ty Gibbs getting a top 10 this season, I think was really good for him in that 54 team. But
yes,
I would say those are the ones that really kind of stick out to me.
Same, man. Same. Let's take a look at the standings real quick, if you don't mind. As you see, William Byron still holding that lead. with 2 wins, Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, and Ricky Stenhouse, the other 3 drivers that have a win this year. Then from there, it's just based off of points. Christopher Bell absolutely killing it. Ross Chastain 6th, Blaney 7th. Brad K, I believe last week, and again, I know this is only the 5th race of the season, or we're only through 5 races so far, but Brad K, I believe last week was 13th or 14th at points. That solid finish, second, almost with the win. Has him in the top 8, man. And, we know last year at this time, he was docked 100 points. Like it was basically an uphill battle all last year that he wasn't even able to make it to the playoffs. So it's good to see Brad K having a good year. And then again, when you're looking at 11 through 16, Denny Hamlin, Daniel Suarez, Austin Cindric there in 13th, but Corey LaJoie plus 11 right now of the cutoff, sitting 15th. I'm telling you, man, some people might have looked at Auto Club and said maybe that was a fluke, but he's been pretty consistent in regards to the equipment that he's given and him outperforming it so far in all 5 races this year. I'm very interested to see what LaJoie does at the Atlanta race in July this year. And then the super speedways that we're going to be going to, Talladega twice, Daytona twice. It would just be awesome to see Corey LaJoie be able to punch a ticket to the playoffs.
Yeah, man, I agree. I think that he's obviously really the standout here when it comes to looking at the standings. And also, I would throw in Chris Buescher too, man. Obviously he doesn't have the win, but he's been putting together solid runs, and we've talked about it going into this year. Just RFK in general taking that next step, and right now they got both of their cars in the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that you will notice on here, outside of William Byron, obviously with those 2 wins, you don't see another Hendrick driver in the top 20. And why is that, Mike?
That's because NASCAR issued a fine, and we're gonna jump into that right now, man. It's the news that kind of struck. We kind of talked about it last week, and NASCAR kind of came in and delivered their fines and their penalties. NASCAR fined all 4 Hendrick drivers and their crew, or all 4 Hendrick Motorsports crew chiefs, $100,000 each, and penalized Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson, and William Byron 100 points and 10 playoff points each. Now, if I'm not mistaken, we saw this happen kind of around was it William Byron last year that kind of got the same treatment in a sense?
It was Brad K is the one that got the same treatment.
Brad K. There you go. Okay. So we saw Brad K get that treatment last year. Obviously, the Hendrick drivers, or all 4 Hendrick teams, are going to I guess it's not the number 9, right? The number 9.
So I don't know how they were going to do that, because obviously Chase Elliott's not driving the number 9. I think maybe the number 9 got penalized as far as owner points go.
Yeah, it would probably have to be owner points. I know for a fact they specifically said, obviously, when Chase Elliott comes back, he would not be penalized, because obviously he wasn't the driver, along with their teams and the number 9 team. So, yeah, man, I think I'm just kind of reading over. I mean, that kind of seems to be the basis of the penalties there. And then obviously, Denny Hamlin was issued. What was his penalty? Do you remember?
Well, his penalty was just based off of the whole him admitting to wrecking Chastain. I think he got fined and he lost 25 points. I think something like that. And let's not forget, Justin Haley also was hit with the same exact penalties and fines as what the Hendrick group got, because of the same exact thing. What is it? The Lorves, something like that. Well, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's on the hood of the car. And I know that we're looking at this, and it's funny because I know for a fact last week with confidence I said nothing was going to happen to Hendrick, and that's what cockiness gets you, man. So, do I agree with NASCAR's penalty? I mean, I guess I have to, right? They found stuff. And here's the thing. They didn't just pinpoint one team. As I said, that Hendrick, they looked at all the teams, they found Justin Haley's, and they ended up dishing out the penalty for all of them. They kept it, fair and balanced. So I have to applaud NASCAR for that. But I just kind of feel like you kind of get in these sticky situations with NASCAR, and when it comes to the equipment on these new cars, because it's like I've heard people say that NASCAR orders these parts or whatever that has to go to the teams, but a lot of times NASCAR can't necessarily give you the exact specs of what it was originally supposed to come as, so that's just a whole like gray area that, we've talked about this before, man. NASCAR kind of seems to be like they kind of
Sketchy,
it seems like they make up stuff
Bro.
as they go.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's one thing if NASCAR has only been around for like 10 years or something, but like these dudes have been around for what, 75 years, 80 years, something like that.
Yeah.
It's just kind of wild to see them still kind of making up stuff as they go. I don't know.
So I guess the rule is you're not supposed to alter the parts, the hood louvers, whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah.
In any type of way. And, Hendrick didn't shy away. They said that that originally their story is basically going to be that the parts that were received from NASCAR did not fit their cars, and they made the modifications to make sure it fit and ran the way it was supposed to. So my thing is there like some type of way NASCAR goes back and verifies that? Did Hendrick not report that? Like I want to know how this stuff works, and I really haven't heard anybody kind of explain it. So it's kind of confusing in a sense, but I don't know, man. They obviously appealed it. So we'll see what happens with that. I mean, as far as the penalties go, though, man, I mean, if it's in the rule book, it's in the rule book. If you break the rules, I mean, you obviously got to be penalized for it. It's just, my thing is, if they come in like that and like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, agreed. And here's another thing that kind of it's weird to me, and I say that because maybe I don't understand the rules of NASCAR to a T. But like, how you have post-race inspection?
Yeah.
Then you have, you have pre-race inspection, then you have post-race inspection. Like, is the post-race inspection to make sure that the teams didn't do something illegally during the race?
I was gonna say make sure they didn't do anything illegal during the race, but mostly after after those cars went through pre-race inspection.
Gotcha. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because it's I don't know. That was a dumb question, to be honest with you, because it's kind of self-explanatory. So I don't even know why I asked that.
No, I get it. But the thing here is, outside of the winner, isn't the post-race inspection randomly
I think, if I'm not
chosen?
mistaken, I thought post-race was first place, second place, and then a random car.
Okay, yeah, it probably is that.
So, but I mean, again, no, I'm sorry. Is that how that works? Is it post-race? It's just 3? Because that would be stupid if NASCAR really does it like that.
I don't know if it's just 3, but I do think it's the first 2, and then however many after that, they are random.
That's crazy. That's crazy, man. But no, I mean, like you said, if it's in the rule book, I have to give NASCAR credit, because I know that they knew that they were going to get some backlash from the fans, from Hendrick in general, because of, the magnitude of what Hendrick is. But if you look at NASCAR, especially over the past couple years, they have kind of kept it pretty fair and balanced. Like, let's look at Pocono last year. Denny Hamlin had the win. They inspected the car. I mean, that's a big name in NASCAR. They took the win away. We've seen Brad Kay, he got fined and penalized. We've seen other penalties happen throughout the past couple years. So shout out to NASCAR for keeping it fair and balanced. But I still kind of feel like they need to figure out some sort of way to really get things situated and settled down, instead of this feeling of making it up as they go.
I agree, man, and that's been a big complaint from me for sure. But let's kind of keep this on the same path and ask kind of this question. Obviously, the big situation here was what happened last week, where Denny Hamlin, post race, didn't say anything about purposely wrecking Ross Chastain or anything like that. So obviously, NASCAR didn't do anything immediately. But the following Monday, he went on his podcast and he said that he pretty much intentionally wrecked Ross Chastain. And NASCAR fined him for it. And I will say that NASCAR does have a history of, and drivers talk about this all the time, if you admit to wrecking somebody, you're going to get fined. My question is, was it fair for NASCAR? Well, multiple things, but like, first off, is it fair for NASCAR to penalize a driver who openly admits it, like, I guess outside of work, if that makes sense?
No.
You
I
don't think
mean,
so?
no. I mean, I do think it's fair to do that because
Okay.
it's like, how can I put it? I mean, this is going to be completely different end of the spectrum here, but like, if somebody killed somebody and then just like randomly was talking about it somewhere else, like, all right, you could be convicted based off of that, right? So, like, I kind of feel like NASCAR, like, it doesn't matter if Denny Hamlin said it on his podcast or what. I mean, him admitting it. And I mean, you think about it, you got to be a little smarter than that, too, right? If you're Denny Hamlin, it's like, it's one thing if you're talking to your team in a private setting and you're just like, hey, I wrecked him on purpose. But, like, you have thousands of people that listen to your podcast, NASCAR included, more than likely. So for you to admit it on your podcast, it's like you had to figure something was going to come of this.
No, absolutely. And obviously, NASCAR, one thing consistently they have done is when it comes to quote unquote intentionally wrecking somebody, we've seen it happen multiple times last year to different drivers. And I think Kyle Busch brought it up to where Joey Logano purposely wrecked him at a race last year and never got fined, never got penalized because he kept his mouth shut, didn't say really much anything. And I kind of figured once Denny Hamlin did say that, kind of figured a fine was coming, and he said he wasn't going to appeal. But whatever the parameters were, he didn't go into any detail of what NASCAR presented him in the email of why he was getting fined. But he said that he held a phone call with Joe Gibbs and the team and went over everything that NASCAR accused him of doing. I guess it was multiple things, and said that he didn't do any of that stuff. So I don't know what that is or what that entails, but that's why he said that he flipped his decision to actually appeal this. So who knows how long it's going to take. We know NASCAR takes 97 years to listen to appeals for whatever reason. Makes absolutely no sense. So we'll see what comes of really both of these appeals. But how do you like? Are you okay with NASCAR stepping in and making those situations, or do you or handling those situations, or do you feel like they should just let drivers take it into their own hands? I mean, because really, actually, out thinking about it, as long as you keep your mouth shut, NASCAR's really not gonna do anything, unless you. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I feel like it for NASCAR to really police it, it has to be malicious, right? Like it has to be what Matt Kenseth did to Joey Logano in Martinsville back, 7 years ago or whatever. But if you keep your mouth shut and you somewhat make it look incidental, nothing's going to happen to you from NASCAR, because like when you think about the 90s and early 2000s, like I think about, Rusty Wallace and Dale Earnhardt going at it all the time. Or, I know Darrell Waltrip would always get into it with people. Like, I look at like they would handle it on the track and be done with it. Right. I just kind of feel like you fast forward 20 years now and it's some drivers take care of business, some don't. And I mean, it was just dumb on Denny Hamlin's part to admit what he did, because if he wouldn't have done that, he wouldn't be in this situation. But I agree with what you said. As long as the driver keeps their mouth shut, I mean, what's NASCAR going to do? NASCAR would only be able to make a judgment call. And I
Yeah.
mean, you would likely be able to win that appeal because they wouldn't have any evidence of it. But when you're blatantly coming out and saying, I did it, I wrecked him on purpose. Like what did Denny Hamlin say? He was like, he went into the turn and he knew that he was going to finish like in the mid-teens, so he let
Yeah.
go of the wheel and just like, come on, bro.
And he literally said, You're coming with me.
Yeah, you're coming with me. Come on, Danny. You got to be smarter than that, man.
Yeah, I
So-
agree. I agree. All right, man. Let's go ahead and jump into our third topic. Here was one of yours. Does NASCAR need to turn Texas into what Atlanta is now?
Yeah, so I mean, I brought this up because I know Atlanta was getting hit with people basically saying that it was a bad race in regards to before they reconfigured it. And we heard that over the past few years before they reconfigured Atlanta's a bad race. Atlanta's a bad race. Well, we hear that about Texas all the time now, right? Like we hear it all the time. And people talk about like it's impossible to pass at Texas. You know, if the track was repaved, it would take years for it to get worn in. So you see what Atlanta did. Atlanta reconfigured the track a little bit. They repaved it. They got everything rolling. You know, was this Sunday's race boring? Somewhat, but last year's two races were very good. So to make Texas better, like do they need to go ahead and do this, or does NASCAR have enough plate tracks on the schedule?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question here. I think that you can argue both sides of it. I think if you talk to people who don't love plate racing, they'll tell you no. Most drivers, a lot of drivers don't like plate racing, so they might get, Texas might, or the drivers might have some pushback on that if that was the case. But I also see it from, I would say, the fans' perspective and Texas Motor Speedway's perspective. I mean, they lost a race this year. Who's to say that they're not in jeopardy of losing both races eventually down the line? I mean, we talk about how every year the Texas race is just it's there. It's kind of just a race on the schedule, and you got to do something to improve that track. And I think the easiest way to do that is to repave it. And see if that helps at all. I mean, you gotta, if you're Texas Motor Speedway and you know that you're kind of on the fence of losing possibly both races, you got to pull out all the stops to make the racing exciting, to make the fans more engaged, and to possibly be able to earn a second race. So yeah, man, I think it's a good idea. I wouldn't say that for a lot of tracks, but I think when it comes to Texas, I think that's a good conversation to have because we have talked about it plenty of times about Texas and just how boring that racetrack is. So why not turn it into a mini super speedway, if you want to call it, or repave it and see how the cars drive. And again, you have to see how the drivers kind of feel about that, but
I mean, here's the thing with it, though, right? It's like not only do you need the race to be competitive, you have other tracks that are coming that could be competitive in regards to you losing both races, right? So, like, we know North Wilkesboro's on the schedule this year as an all-star race. It's not going to surprise me one bit if that race is 70% good. That is going to be a track they go to next year for a points paying race, right?
Oh, yeah.
I know that we're likely not going to Auto Club next year because of them redoing the track. But I know that one thing that a lot of fans have said is NASCAR doesn't have a lot of short tracks, right? You have Richmond. If we're talking about under a mile, all you have is Richmond, Martinsville, and Bristol. That's all you have. Well, they're making that a half-mile track over there. So guess what? Boom. Maybe they now Auto Club, maybe they get two races, so that's going to pull another track like maybe a Texas off the list, man. I just kind of feel like Texas is at the point now with them losing the race. They're at the point where it's like, all right, your back's up against the wall, bro. You have to make something happen. And if the repave is going to take a while for you to get going, that's not the move then. You're going to have to do what Atlanta did, because think about it. If I'm not mistaken, there was a point in the 2010s where Atlanta only had one race of the season. If I'm not mistaken, it was Labor Day weekend or the week before Labor Day. And then it got switched when Darlington came to be that Labor Day weekend track. Atlanta got moved to like just the fifth race of the season or whatever. And then they did all this, and boom, guess what? Atlanta now has 2 races. So Texas has to figure it out. Now I feel like this is the only way they can go.
I agree. I agree, man. I mean, they got to do something, and if they want to get a race back, or even just save the one race they have, they got to make a decision. So
For sure. I agree.
all right, man, it's your time.
Let's do it, baby. Let's do it. Over under. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're going to start with the first over under, and it is about a road course god, and that's AJ Allmendinger. He is a beast on road courses. That's where we're going this weekend. So the over under is AJ Allmendinger and his finish, which I have set at over under 5.5. So let me give you some stats on this. You go back to last year at this COTA race last year, he basically had it won. And then Ross Chastain, I think got into Alex Bowman, which ended up getting into AJ Allmendinger. AJ Allmendinger finished like 26 or something like that. But if you look at the last 5 road courses of last year, AJ Allmendinger finished, the last 4 road courses last year, AJ Allmendinger had a top 10 in every single one of them. He had an average finish of 5.5. So going back to COTA, almost had that win in 2022, over under 5.5 for AJ Allmendinger.
Yeah, I'm gonna go under. I think that this is obviously right up his wheelhouse. I think that this is a track specifically that he is just an absolute beast on. I think he picks up right where he left off last year, and possibly has a chance to compete for a win. So I'm gonna go under on this one for him.
Okay, I like that. I'm going under as well. I think that this is going to be the race that really kind of gets him and that team on track for 2023. We know that last year and years prior, he had basically just been part-time in the Cup Series, mostly at road courses. He's full-time this year. He knows that he can win some oval tracks. We know that, but he knows his bread and butter are road courses. I think he's going to capitalize, flirt with maybe a win, but I do say I'm going to go under. I think he does get his top 5. So we have it there. Let's move on to the second over-under. That's Tyler Reddick. So I don't have it set at a number. It's just basically you picking, is he going to finish top 5 or not? Last year was his coming out party for RCR, where he had 3 wins. That's 3 career wins total for him in his career in the Cup Series. 2 of those 3 wins came at road courses. So does Tyler Reddick get a top 5 this weekend at COTA?
Yeah, I think so, man. I think, I was kind of on the fence about picking him. Like, should I pick him to win this race? Because I think that he's going to have a hell of a day. I mean, he's a great road course racer. And listen, he is on a trend right now of running good in that 45 car. So that team seems to be heading in the right direction, and we're going to a track where he's really good at. So I'm going to go, yes, absolutely, top 5 for Tyler Reddick.
Yeah, I'm right on the fence, right? Like I feel like, I don't know, he's going to do well, but something's telling me he's going to be right outside of that top 5. Maybe he finishes 7th, 8th, still top 10. I know he'll take it. I'll take that for my fantasy GM league for sure. But I'm going to actually say he does not get a top 5 at COTA this week. So final over under, and why are you making that face?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I don't think he gets a top 5 at COTA this week.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. I don't think he gets a top 5 at COTA this week.
Okay, bro.
I hope I'm wrong. Don't get me wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But
okay.
Yeah,
I'm thinking. Okay.
All right. So final over under green white checkers. We talk about this. I know we've seen a lot of that over the past few weeks. It almost seems like, and you brought it up earlier in the show, only seems like cautions outside of stages that happen at road courses is at the end of the race. We always get hit with green, white checkers. How many attempts are we going to get, though? I have that set at 1.5 over under green, white check attempts at COTA.
I'm going under on this one. And a lot of that has to just, I just think this race is going to be really spaced out, dude. Like, unless it's for a debris or a really big pile up, I don't think we're going to get that green, white checkered. I'm actually going to go under on this one.
Okay, I like it. I'm going to go over. I feel
you're right.
I that would be awesome. I feel like me and you are on the same page when it comes to this race, right? Like they're going to have stage racing, but it won't be the cautions with it. We know how road courses are. Cars get fanned out, right? There's going to be points of the race where there's a car that does not see another car for 5 or 10 laps. With that being said, if there are no cautions happening, NASCAR sure as hell is going to find a way to have a caution happen towards the end of that race, because you got to think about it. It's
Put that sign right there. Put that sign right there.
Definitely. Yep, exactly. Or they're gonna radio into one of the drivers to throw their water bottle out of the car or something, right? Like, it's gonna happen.
Hey, Chase Elliott's leading. We gotta throw the flag for the sign.
They never do that. Anyway, so I don't know, man. It's rare that we see when a run goes for long that the first and second place driver are right on one another. Normally, first place has like a 5, 6, 7 second lead on second. So NASCAR is going to find a way to throw a flag towards the end of the race. And I think that's what's going to breed some more green, white checkers. So I'm going over on that.
I think we'll get, I'm going to say none, but if we do get one, I think it will be one, and it will be an Eric Almirola spin out for real.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's if he can make it through the race. But anyway, yeah, Kyle Larson will probably be winning the race when that happens, by the way. So, yeah. Anyway, no, that does it for the over-under. So now it's time for us to just jump into COTA, man. Talk about it. Yeah. Where would you rank? I mean, and I know this is kind of tough, kind of putting you on the spot, but would you say COTA is in the top half of road courses for you as far as what you like, or the bottom half? Because we go to 6 road courses, I believe.
I would say top half for sure. I really enjoyed this track. I think in my heart of hearts, it'll always be Watkins Glen.
100%
as my favorite. But yeah, it's definitely in the top half, and definitely one that I really enjoy. So it's something that I look forward to every year. I just hope that we get good racing, man, without having these stage cautions. So. But yeah, I really look forward to it. It's definitely one of my favorite road courses and races to go to throughout.
Everybody talks about. They say that, if I'm not mistaken, they say the facilities there are just like amazing.
Oh, I believe it.
So I mean that might be a track that I need to go visit, just to see the facility, see the great racing that we have going on over there. I'm looking forward to it, man. This is the first road course of the season. We kind of talk about road courses like we do super speedways. A lot of times we're seeing guys that we don't normally see up front competing for the win. We know one of those drivers, Michael McDowell, he's a very good road course racer. Chris Buescher, he's a good road course racer as well. So it's going to be awesome to see. Can we see a driver, quote unquote, steal a win? Like we saw Ricky Stenhouse get that win at Daytona. Could we see a driver steal a win to punch their ticket into the playoffs? That's going to be amazing. But let's go ahead and jump into the past winners at COTA. And mind you, there's only been 2 races there in the Cup Series. Chase Elliott, the inaugural winner back in 2021 here at COTA. And then Ross Chastain, as we talked about a little earlier, I believe it was a couple laps left. He made a move on Alex Bowman, which put him into AJ Allmendinger. He was able to clear both and get the win. So Ross Chastain brings home the checker flag in 2022. I think we're going to see a lot more of the same, man. And I don't necessarily mean Ross Chastain getting the win, but I do believe, in my opinion, I said we're going to have over 1.5 green, white checkered attempts. I think that you're going to see, look, intensity's up on those last couple laps. You know that. People don't care, man. If you're in their way, they're going to move you out the way. So I think we're going to see a lot of that happening on Sunday.
I agree.
So I want to jump into our pick'ems, right? But I want to look at the season standings right now, and oh man, so just an absolute horrible day for you, Mike, at Atlanta. And I mean, look, I had Bubba Wallace in my FanDuel lineup because it just made sense. I think he qualified like 19th or something like that. We know Bubba's good on the quote unquote super speedways. And what was it? Was it like 10 laps in He got
Yeah.
spun out, and basically his day was done. For him to even finish 27th, though, when it looked like he was probably going to finish last, I
Yeah.
mean, that is good. And then again, Ryan Blaney, we talked about it, he was 2 laps down. I was like, yeah, typical, right? I picked the one time I picked Ryan Blaney, this happens, but he was able to fight through it. So right now, again, this is all on who has the least amount of points. I have 48. Mike has 71. That's through 5 of the 36 races this season. So it's time, Mike. Let's go ahead and jump into who we both have for this weekend at COTA. All right. I see what you're doing here. I don't know what I was thinking, bro. I don't know what I was thinking.
I thought you were gonna be like psych.
Yeah. Okay. I had my stuff all mixed up. I was thinking about something completely different. So real quick, that over under, I 100% think Tyler Reddick is going to get a top 5. I have Tyler Reddick winning this week. Like I said, he won 2 out of his 3 races last year were won on road courses. He did decent, I believe, at COTA last year. And again, he's peaking at the right time as far as getting that momentum going for that 45 team at 23-11. 2 straight top 5 finishes. And I mean, literally, he had a chance to go for the win in both of those races. So I think this is the week that he capitalizes on that and he does get a win. So yes to the over under of a top 5. Yes to Tyler Reddick winning this week. Mike, who you got?
I'm gonna go with Christopher Bell. I think that this 20 team has had a hell of a finish to last year and a hell of a start to this new year. And he's really good at road courses, and I think that this 20 team is going to pull through and get the dub this week, man. I was going back and forth between Christopher Bell and Tyler Reddick. I have a lot of confidence in both of those guys, but I think Christopher Bell gets it done this week, man, and he gets his first win of the season.
All right, there you go. I want to ask you something before we get off, because I'm just thinking, like, so we're 5 races in. Obviously, there's still a whole lot of season left. But if you were given the chance right now, and this is just hypothetical, if you were given the chance right now to change your championship pick, would you do it? And if you did, who would you pick to be your new championship favorite?
No, I think I would still stick with Kyle Busch. I think he's actually done probably a lot better than I really thought he would, at least to start off. I thought that he would get – I thought it would take him a while, and then he'd get stronger towards the end. But they're racing – they're in the top 10, I feel like, every week. I feel like I got a lot of apologies to hand out, and that one really being William Byron. I mean, let's be honest, he was on track to have a hell of a good finish this week as well. I mean, I think that he is the strongest car at Hendrick right now. So, yeah, I would say no. I would still stick with no. I still feel pretty damn confident in Kyle Busch.
Yeah, I mean, Joey Logano getting that win this week definitely, reignited that confidence that I had in him. Because, yeah, I mean, we talked about it after Daytona where he got a top 5 finish. It was kind of like hit or miss over the past 3 races, but he was finally able to get that dub. I would say if I was told you have to change your pick and pick somebody else, I might lean towards Christopher Bell, man. I mean, my man has been very consistent. And it's not one of those things where he's been consistent, like, oh, another top 10. Oh, another top 10. It's like, no, my man is like top 3.
Yeah.
Flirting with wins. Like, that win is going to come very soon.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man.
And the floodgates are just going to open from there. So if I had to change my pick, I would likely go Christopher Bell.
That's a good pick, dude. That's, man, no arguments there. That team is on fire.
Yeah, for sure.
Team is on fire. Hope they get that first dub this week because I need it. All right, everybody. That's going to wrap up episode 24 of the 4Y podcast. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. We enjoyed it. Great conversation. Great show tonight. And we hope you enjoyed COTA. We hope it's exciting, and we'll see y'all next week.